All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into some mind-blowing stuff. We're going to be talking about excerpts from Dr. Joe Dispenza's book,
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
That's the One. And it's a book, by the way, all about how we can get this change our lives.
Literally change our lives.
Yeah, literally change our lives by changing our minds.
It's pretty wild, you know? I think what's really cool about Dispenza is the way he blends like hard science with self-help. Like he uses quantum physics and neuroscience.
Even epigenetics.
Yeah, to explain how our thoughts and feelings actually shape our reality.
And, we've all heard that saying, like, thoughts become things, right?
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
But Dispenza, he takes that idea a step further with this whole concept of the quantum you.
Right, and he really gets into, like, the nitty-gritty of the quantum model of reality, where everything is energy. And basically what he's saying is that our thoughts and feelings emit these electromagnetic signals that interact with this energy field.
Okay, so it's not just, like, some vague mystical idea.
No. And he actually points to studies where, get this, healers were able to affect DNA in test tubes.
Whoa, hold on.
Just by using, like, focused intention.
So you're telling me our thoughts could have, like, a physical impact?
That's what he's suggesting.
It's wild.
It is wild. But here's the thing. Here's the catch, I guess. Dispenza is really careful to say we need to align our thoughts and feelings for this to really work.
So it's got to be both.
Yeah, you can't just wish for something, right? You have to truly believe it and feel it as if it's already a reality.
I mean, that makes sense. But man, one thing that stood out to me in the book is just how much we get stuck in our routines and our habits, our like ways of thinking.
Oh, totally.
In Dispenza, he actually calls these limitations the big three.
Okay.
Which are our environment, our bodies, and then our perception of time.
Right. And he says these three things, they can keep us trapped in this loop of reacting to the world around us instead of consciously creating our reality. You know what I mean?
Totally. Like, we're so focused on what's happening outside of us.
Yeah.
That we forget we even have the power to choose how we respond.
Exactly. We forget that we can actually choose. And so instead of being the creators of our lives,
we just end up reacting.
Or
whatever comes our way.
And, think about it this way. If you're constantly surrounded by, like, negativity or stress, it's going to influence you. Right. It's going to influence your thoughts, your feelings. And according to Hebb's law, the more we think and feel a certain way, the more those neural pathways become, like, ingrained in our brain.
Ingrained. Oh, wow.
It's like our brains get hardwired to respond in these predictable ways based on our past experiences.
That is both fascinating and a little frightening. But, okay, so if our environment is that powerful,
right,
are we really doomed to just repeat the same patterns over and over?
Well, not necessarily, because Dispenza actually points to, like, historical figures like Gandhi, who were able to transcend their environment through, like, sheer willpower and focus. He believed in this vision so strongly that nothing could really shake him.
So it's about not letting those external circumstances dictate our internal state.
Exactly. And that brings us to the second big three factor.
Which is our bodies.
Our bodies, yeah.
Okay, how do we change the way our bodies react to stress and negative emotions?
Well, Dispenza says our bodies, they're basically a collection of what he calls memorized emotions.
The memorized emotions.
Yeah, think about it. Every time we experience an emotion, our brain releases a specific cocktail of chemicals.
Right.
And over time, our cells actually become addicted to these chemical patterns.
Wait, so you're saying my body could be craving
it's possible
those stress hormones even if I don't consciously want to feel stressed?
Exactly, which explains why it can be so hard to break free from those negative patterns, right? Even when you're consciously like, I'm going to think positive, your body might still be pulling you back into those familiar, even though they're unhealthy, emotional states.
So it's like having this subconscious saboteur working against us.
Totally.
Even when we're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, and that actually leads perfectly into Dispenza's discussion of the power of the subconscious mind. Because, he argues that we can't just rely on willpower or positive thinking to overcome these, like, really deeply ingrained patterns.
It's not enough to just think happy thoughts.
It's not enough, right? We need to actively reprogram our subconscious mind. And Dispenza suggests that a lot of our actions are actually driven by emotions we're not even aware of.
Oh, totally. Like when we're mindlessly snacking when we're bored.
Yes.
Or procrastinating when we feel overwhelmed.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
these emotional patterns are running the show.
They are running the show.
Without our consent.
And that's where techniques like meditation and visualization, they come in. And Dispenza really dedicates a lot of the book to explaining how these practices can help us become aware of our subconscious programming and then start to rewrite that script.
So that makes sense. But how does time fit into all of this? I mean, we can't just stop the clock.
Right. And that's where I think we get tripped up. We spend so much energy reliving like past hurts or worrying about, future anxieties that we miss out on the present moment.
The present moment.
Which is the only place, by the way, where we have the power to choose and create.
It's like that saying, right? Yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, but today's a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Exactly. And Dispenza even suggests that by vividly imagining a future vision with really intense emotion, we can actually trick our bodies into experiencing it as if it's already happening.
Hold on. Are we talking about, like, time travel here?
Kind of. It gets pretty interesting.
Can you give us an example of, like, how this works in real life?
Oh, yeah. There are tons of examples in the book.
Okay, cool.
I've got one in mind, actually. So, Dispenza, he tells this story about a student named Bill who was battling cancer. And Bill realized that he had been carrying around all this, like, bitterness and resentment
Wow.
for years. Like, it had become so ingrained in his personality. It was like a default setting.
So you're saying, like, his internal state was actually contributing to his illness?
That's what Dispenza suggests. Yeah. And so Bill, he decides to really actively try to shift his thoughts and feelings, He goes on this retreat, and he focuses on cultivating, like, peace and gratitude.
Okay.
And get this. After the retreat, his tumors, they start to shrink. And eventually, he went into complete remission.
That's incredible.
It is incredible.
Like, that's a powerful example of how our, like, internal state can affect our physical health.
Totally. And it really highlights Dispenza's concept of survival versus creation.
Okay.
When we're stuck in that survival mode, we're constantly reacting to stress and fear, right? Our bodies are just pumped full of adrenaline and cortisol.
Like, our fight or flight response is stuck in the on position.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that keeps us in the grip of those big three limitations, environment, body, time.
Right.
But when we shift into creation mode, we move from fear to love, from lack to abundance. We become conscious creators of our reality, not just passive bystanders.
I'm starting to see, like, how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
But how do we actually make that shift? It sounds great in theory,
Right.
but can we really just choose to, like, stop feeling stressed or afraid?
Well, Dispenza says it starts with awareness, right?
Hmm.
We have to become aware of those negative emotions that are driving us.
Okay.
He even calls these ingrained patterns the selfish self.
Selfish self. Okay.
Which is the part of us that's constantly seeking, like, external validation and clinging to familiar, even if they're unhealthy patterns.
Ooh. That's like when I get caught up in comparing myself to other people.
Yes.
Or worrying about what people think.
Exactly. And Dispenza, he encourages us to, unmemorize those negative emotions.
Memorize, huh?
And liberate that energy that's been trapped in those patterns. It's like clearing out the mental and emotional clutter to create space for something new.
So it's like letting go of the old stories we've been telling ourselves and creating a new narrative.
Exactly. And that brings us to another really crucial concept in the book, the gap.
Oh, the gap.
Okay, in Dispenza, he talks about this gap between how we present ourselves to the world and who we really are on the inside.
So it's like we're all wearing masks to a certain extent.
In a way, yeah. Like, we might project this image of, confidence, success.
Right.
But internally, we're, like, struggling with self-doubt or insecurity.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that.
Oh, totally.
But why does this gap matter so much?
Well, Dispenza points out that this gap can become, like, especially apparent in midlife. We might achieve all these external goals, but we still feel this sense of emptiness or longing. It's like we've climbed the ladder of success only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall.
Oh, it's like that saying, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bring that, like, lasting fulfillment.
Exactly. And Dispenza suggests that this is where our soul starts calling for something deeper.
Right.
That urge to grow, evolve, to connect with something beyond just the material world.
But it's often easier to ignore that voice, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Like we distract ourselves
Oh, sure.
with work or social media,
Totally.
or even unhealthy habits just to avoid confronting those kind of uncomfortable feelings.
And Dispenza calls this the allure of addictions
Okay.
and instant gratification. We try to fill that void with external things, but it never really satisfies that deeper longing.
Yeah, it's like trying to quench your thirst with salt water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The real solution, he says, lies in doing the inner work. It's about facing those uncomfortable emotions, understanding where they come from, and ultimately releasing them.
And that's where meditation comes in.
Yes. Dispenza dedicates like a big chunk of the book to
Totally.
explaining how meditation can help us bridge that gap and create lasting transformation.
So it's not just about relaxation or stress relief.
It's not just that.
It's about like rewiring our brain
Totally.
and changing our like fundamental state of being.
It really is. He actually compares it to gardening,
Okay.
We need to consciously weed out those negative thought patterns and plant new seeds of intention.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
But how does meditation actually work, like on a neurological level?
So Dispenza explains that when we meditate, we can shift out of that kind of stressed out, high alert, beta brainwave state and into slower, more relaxed alpha and theta states.
So instead of constantly reacting,
Yeah.
we can access a calmer.
A calmer, more centered state of mind.
I like that.
And from this place of stillness, Dispenza says that's where we can start to reprogram those subconscious beliefs and tap into that field of like infinite possibility. He even says that those like prolonged periods of high beta brainwave activity like we experience with chronic stress, that can actually be detrimental to our health.
Wow. So meditation isn't just some woo-woo practice.
It's not woo.
It has a real
But
impact
cerebral impact.
on our brains and bodies.
Absolutely. And he gives some fascinating examples. Like he talks about this man named Jose who had been struggling with warts for years.
Yeah.
Warts, yeah.
Yeah.
And after he began meditating and entering a state of deep inner coherence, the warts vanish.
You're saying meditation can clear up skin conditions.
It speaks to that mind-body connection that Dispenza keeps talking about. And it's not just anecdotal evidence either. He also shares the story of Monique, a woman who won the lottery.
Won the lottery.
Yeah, after consciously shifting her self-concept to one of abundance.
So she like literally manifested money by changing her mindset.
It wasn't about wishful thinking. It was about embodying the feeling of abundance,
Right.
as if it was already a part of her reality.
God, these stories are pretty mind-blowing. It's like we have this untapped power
We do.
to create the lives we want.
Exactly.
But how do we actually go about doing that? Like, does Dispenza give us any tools?
Absolutely. He provides a step-by-step guide for creating a new mind, and he walks readers through these series of questions to help them define the thoughts, actions, and feelings of their ideal selves.
So it's about getting really clear on who we want to be.
Yes.
And then aligning our thoughts, feelings, and actions
Alignment. That's the key.
to match that vision.
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect or never having another negative thought, right?
Right.
It's about consciously choosing a new direction
Okay.
and consistently making choices that align with that vision.
So intention and action are key here.
They're huge.
But what role does like meditation play in this?
Meditation helps us create space between our thoughts and reactions. It allows us to become the observer of our mind rather than being swept away by every passing thought or emotion.
Like we're creating a pause button.
Oh, pause button, yeah. So we can choose a more conscious response.
I like that.
And from that place of stillness and awareness, we can begin to reprogram our subconscious minds. And Dispenza, he actually guides readers through specific meditations designed to help them connect with their future selves and make that vision a reality.
It sounds like a powerful combination of inner work and outer action.
It is. And it's a process, not a quick fix, right?
Of course.
Dispenza encourages us to, be patient with ourselves, trust that consistent effort will lead to results. He also reminds us to be open to unexpected signs and synchronicities along the way.
Those little nudges from the universe.
Yeah, those nudges that we're on the right track.
Okay, so it's not just about visualizing a goal and then like waiting for it to fall in our laps.
No, not at all.
It's about like actively creating the conditions for it to manifest.
Exactly. And he talks about the importance of mental rehearsal,
Yeah.
practicing the feeling of our new reality until it becomes as familiar as our old patterns.
Is that where that whole fake it till you make it idea comes in?
Yeah, more like feel it till you become it.
Feel it till you become it. I like that.
It's about embodying the energy
Mhm.
of what we want, not just intellectually understanding it.
I see. So it goes beyond just setting goes.
Way beyond.
It's about a complete like transformation of who we are
Totally.
and how we relate to the world.
And what's really inspiring, I think, is that Dispenza shares personal anecdotes from his own, transformation journey throughout the book. It makes all this feel really relatable and attainable.
He's walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly.
It's really empowering to see that someone who has achieved this level of awareness and transformation was once in our shoes.
Absolutely. And, he's not claiming to have all the answers, right?
Right.
He's simply sharing his experience and the tools that have worked for him and inviting us to, embark on our own journey of self-discovery and transformation.
I think one of the things that I keep coming back to in this book is this idea that we're not stuck
Oh, yeah.
with our current, limitations.
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up in thinking, this is just who I am, or, I'll never be able to change that.
Totally.
But Dispenza really challenges those beliefs.
He does. What's so cool is that he offers a really empowering perspective. It's like we're not victims of our circumstances or our past. We actually have the power
We do.
to choose our thoughts, our feelings,
Right.
and ultimately our reality. But it does require us to be willing to step outside of that comfort zone,
For sure.
embrace the unknown.
And he even talks about being open to, quantum surprises.
Yes.
These unexpected events that can show up
Totally.
when we start to align with that new reality.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's about letting go of that need to control everything and trusting that the universe, it has a plan, even if we can't see it yet.
Right, right.
If we could predict every step of the journey,
Right.
it would kind of take the fun out of it.
It would, it would.
Mm.
So for our listeners who have been with us on this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the main takeaway
That's a good question.
that they can apply to their own life?
The biggest takeaway, I think, is this. You are not defined by your past experiences or your limitations, You have the power to create a new reality for yourself, and you can start right now. It's about becoming that conscious creator, not just reacting to whatever life throws your way.
It's recognizing that you have a choice
You have a choice.
in every moment.
Powerful at
A
it.
choice about how you think, how you feel, and how you respond to the world around you.
Yeah.
And Dispenza gives us all these amazing tools in the book to help with that,
Yeah.
from meditation to visualization to actively shifting our emotional state.
And it's not about becoming some, perfect, enlightened being overnight,
No.
It's those small, consistent steps
Little by little.
in the direction you want to go, being patient with yourself, celebrating the little wins, and then learning from those setbacks along the way.
Because real transformation does take time and effort.
It does. It's a journey.
It's a journey, not a destination. But, like we've seen from all the examples in the book, it is a journey worth taking.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine, living a life where you're no longer controlled by fear or self-doubt, A life where you feel empowered and joyful, aligned with your purpose.
That sounds pretty amazing, doesn't it?
It really does.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I have one final kind of thought-provoking question
Okay.
for you, dear listener.
Mm-hmm.
If you could create any reality for yourself, what would it look like? What thoughts, what feelings, what actions would define your ideal self? Just take some time to really think about that because, you have the power to make it happen.
And remember, like Dr. Dispenza says, the greatest habit you can ever break is the habit of being yourself.
That's good.
And the greatest habit you can ever create is the habit of expressing the divine through you.
That's beautiful. I love that.
It's a good reminder that we're all capable of transformation.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive through breaking the habit of being yourself. We hope it has inspired you to tap into your own infinite potential and create the life of your dreams.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep reaching for those stars.